I remember as a young boy being dropped off at my grandmother's house. Her house smelled like buckskin, smoked buckskin. And I thought all grandmothers' homes smelled that way until I became older and went to other grandmothers' homes. But that smoked buckskin in her house told me of a culture that she'd lived her whole life. Her name was Timbimboo Parry. She was an activist. She'd been to Washington, D.C. more than 10 times. She testified in front of Congress. I remember going there as a child and sitting at her feet and hearing these amazing stories about how the bald eagle became bald, how the porcupine became greedy, and these rich, vibrant stories that taught our children values. And so I was lucky enough to sit at her feet and hear these stories and learn from a wise old tribal elder who absolutely loved her people. From all of those stories that my grandmother shared and her admonition to me to go tell our story, it really has turned me into who I am today. I went into education. I wanted to be an educator. I wanted to teach young children about my culture. You know, the fact that I went to 70 elementaries this last year, I don't have the ability to say no. But I remember as a young boy being fascinated with Indian chiefs. Sagwitch, who was the chief at the time when the pioneers come into the valley, but he was my third great-grandfather as well. But I remember seeing his headdress on a mantle in her home. And that fascination with chiefs made me ask her one day as a young boy, "Grandma, one day I want to be a chief." And she told me this story. She said, when a young Shoshone boy or girl does an act of kindness or service, the chief in the tribe would give that boy or girl one eagle feather. And she said, what if that boy or girl kept doing kind things until they became an adult? What do you think would happen then? And she said, you know, one day when the chief gets ready to die, and the chief is always the chief until they pass away, he will call everyone together, all of his people together, and he will say, I'm about to meet my maker. Before I go, though, I need to select a new chief. And it was the person that had the most eagle feathers would become the new chief. You see, the chief is like our life today. The chief isn't the bravest or the toughest or the strongest. The chief is the one who led a life of service and kindness in his community. Now, you're probably not going to be a Shoshone chief, but if you live your life that way, you will become a leader in your community. Leadership that's not rooted in power and authority, but in service, kindness, and wisdom. And you know what? That's the kind of leaders that this world needs today. Kindness, love, service. So go be a chief.